Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another week, another episode of Crunching Your Growth. I'm Phil Masiello, your host, and today's episode is one of those founder stories that reminds you that business is never just business. It's resilience, identity, risk, loss, and the decision to get back up when most people would stay down. Today, I'm joined by Thom Hill, founder of Iron Resin, and a true brand builder with roots in surf, adventure, motorcycles, the kind of lifestyle that doesn't come from a brainstorm in a conference room. It comes from living it. His entrepreneurial journey really started in a way only a real founder could appreciate. He literally ran into a guy on a sidewalk who was just moving out of a screen printing shop, bought the business with all the money he had, quit his job the same day, never looked back. From there, he built Streamline Design and Silkscreen. He launched Coastal Classics, grew Old Guys Rule into a nationally distributed brand, and later created Iron Resin as a premium passion project built around quality, purpose, and the long road home. But his story is not just about success. It's about losing nearly everything, shutting down multiple brands, navigating personal and business collapse, and then rebuilding from the one thing he still had left, the IP for Iron Resin. Since relaunching, the brand has grown steadily year over year, proving that sometimes your greatest chapter starts after your hardest fall. So, this is a conversation about brand authenticity, building products that last, rejecting disposable thinking, and what it really takes to come back stronger. So, let's get into it with Thom. Let's bring him in and let's hear his story. Thom, thanks for taking the time to come in. Thanks for taking time out of your busy schedule of building this brand, and great to have you on.
No, I appreciate you letting me be on the show.
Yeah. So why don't you take us back a little bit? And I did sort of a brief, but I don't think I really did the story justice. Why don't you take us back a little bit and sort of go through your history of what you've done and how you've gotten to this point and what Iron Resin is all about.
Sure. I mean, it's a long story. I don't know how much time we have, but I'll try not to bore your viewers too much. But really, I started right out of a few years out of graduating from college. I came west like a lot of people. Grew up on the East Coast and grew up surfing and really wanted to have an experience living in California. So I came out here to go to college. I went to UC Santa Barbara, not too far from where I sit today, and just fell in love with everything California had to offer. I mean, I loved the outdoors growing up. California just was full of opportunity for all kinds of adventures. I mean, the ocean meets the mountains, and uh, Santa Barbara is sort of blessed with being surrounded by all kinds of wild places, from the islands offshore to the mountains in the backcountry. So, really kind of really cemented my love of the outdoors even more, and it was a place I just didn't want to leave. And when I while I was in college, I interned for Apple Computer, and they offered me a really, for me, seemed like more money that I could dream about, great paying job, but they were going to move me to Austin, and I realized, I kind of did some soul searching, and I just wasn't willing to leave the lifestyle that I had living here, and to move to Austin, especially, and not that Austin's a bad place for those people that live there, but it wasn't for me at the time, and I took a job as just doing graphics and design work for a small ad agency in Santa Barbara, and fairly early on, I realized that I just really wanted to do something on my own, and I wanted the freedom of you know just building something that I could be proud of, and I had no idea what that was, and I think I hit like a lot of kids. My kids are the age I was at that time, and I think my kids are going through it right now. You kind of hit that sort of almost your mid-20 mark, and realize it's time to get serious about your life, and um, that the clock is ticking and you need to kind of figure out some sort of path. And around that time, as you mentioned in your intro, I literally bumped into a guy. He was walking out carrying boxes out of his little tiny shop. And he was an older guy. He was retiring, and he had a little screen printing business, a little 4-color printing press. And man, the light bulb went off in my head, and I just, I said, well, how much you're asking for all this? And he threw out a number, it's like $15,000 or something like that. And I said, well, I've got $4,000. That's everything I have. And he said, I'll sell it to you. And literally took the box he was carrying out, brought it back in. He said, here's the landlord's number, call him, get the lease. And I called my boss that day, quit my job. And, I was engaged to get married at the time, and came home, told my soon-to-be wife that I'd quit my job and I'd spent all our money on this business. And she's like, I don't even know how to screen print. What do you know about business? And I'm like, well, I ordered a book, and I'm going to read this books. And, I think in hindsight, burning the boat at that time in my life was probably one of the best things I could have done, because there was really no looking back. I mean, I had to figure out a way to make it work, and got the book, learned how to screen print, hired actually a guy from a local screen print company come in and teach me the basics. And I wasn't very good at it at first, and I did every job in there myself. And I remember, okay, I'm figuring out print. I need to, figure out who I'm for, because I had no customers. And I remember, and this sounds silly in hindsight, but I got the yellow pages and I just started on the A page and just started calling businesses. Any business that was local that stood out, picked up the phone, I called them and started getting some work. And very quickly grew that business. We expanded into another unit in the industrial complex we were in, and then another one, and then another one. And pretty soon I had 15 employees and 20 employees. And we were doing a lot of work for, started out just doing anything, Boys and Girls Club, local high school, the local churches. And then I was doing, I had friends that owned small surf shops or skate shops, and was doing their merchandise for them. And then got a little bit of a break when I had a good friend that owned a record label, and we started doing some band merch first for their band. And they were, and I'd get a phone call at 1 a.m. on a Saturday night, say, we sold everything, we need more stuff for our show tomorrow. And I would go in and print all their shirts and put them on a Greyhound bus or an airplane. And pretty soon word got out that we would just get it done for whatever show they had coming up, or if it was some sort of rush, we were the ones to call. So we grew very quickly. And then within 3 or 4 years, we were making good revenue, but I was pouring everything back into the business, and I really wasn't taking much home. I was really just focused on really top line growth at that point. I remember, and my wife would ask, like, well, when are we going to start making some money? You're growing, but I'm like, we're really struggling. And we not too long after that, I had the idea of developing, because I was always into design, and I had a small staff of artists that worked for me as well at that point. And so we started doing design work for some local surf shops and some of the local resorts, coastal resorts up and down the coast. And we would do, we developed a catalog of designs that we could essentially swap out 1 or 2 screens, and they're called name drop designs. So we would just switch out the name for whatever retailer wanted to utilize that design, and quickly grew that business into over 1,000 specialty retailers around the country, and that became more or less the biggest part of our business. We stopped doing custom production for everybody else and just started really focusing on our own products. And Old Guys Rule came about from just a few years after that, with what started as a bumper sticker that one of my sales reps had created as a joke to put on all his buddies' cars down at the local surf spot. He would slap them on all his old, that time he would slap it on their bumpers, and everybody seemed to love it. And my sales manager at the time said, we should build something out of this. And I thought it was, personally, I was not feeling it, but they came back to me and really were kind of pushing me to do something with it. So we licensed the name. We had them trademark it, and we licensed the name from them. And it was just the right thing at the right time. It became sort of a novelty T-shirt brand that grew very quickly, and we were in thousands of doors around the country with that. And we had a great run with that for about 10 years or so. And I was at that point in my career, I felt like I was doing things really for everybody else, and I had this passion for vintage clothing and vintage motorcycles. And then I grew up surfing, and I just love the culture around these different things, and so I started just messing around with a small collection of products, and at that time Instagram had just started, so I had an Instagram page that just took off, and people seemed to really resonate with it. And so I created a little collection, took it to a trade show, and instantly picked up like 50 retailers, and really seemed to resonate with people. Uh, and so that sort of became really a third product line within our business. And that brand grew, and we expanded. At that time, e-com sales were really just starting to become a more important part of a brand's sales channel. And we quickly grew. We were sort of growing all three brands simultaneously, and I ended up going through a pretty lengthy divorce at that time. After 21 years of marriage, we decided to get divorced, and financially it was disastrous for us. We struggled to kind of come to a valuation on the business, and things dragged on for a bit of time, and ultimately, because we tied up all our personal assets in the business to grow. We had an SBA loan tied to our personal residence, the commercial real estate we owned, and ultimately had to close the business because I wasn't able to renew our line of credit with the bank, with my wife needing to sign off on the collateral of our personal property. So we closed the business. I shut it down. We kind of liquidated everything. The house got sold. Our commercial real estate got sold. All the assets of the businesses got sold. And we paid off our debt, but we were more or less left with very little. I was able to negotiate the trademark for Iron Resin, and didn't know what I was going to do with it at that time. Really didn't have plans, but COVID hit at the same time, so I had a little money coming in from the relief package that was available then, and sort of hustled some side consulting gigs, and I had, in the meantime, I had met my now wife, who was sort of by my side through most of this, and has been an amazing partner, and kind of probably see me at my worst. But she really kind of had my back through this, and together we sort of decided to give it another go. My longtime distributor in Europe for Iron Resin approached me to see if we could keep the brand going. They had good traction with it in Europe and wanted to keep it going there. So we agreed to form a new entity, new partnership, and we relaunched it really just 4 months after shutting it down. And we're sort of back online, launched it as a direct-to-consumer brand, essentially from the beginning, and then mostly focused on D2C. And then the last couple of years, we've started opening it up to wholesale again as we've grown. But I have a great partnership with, again, it's my European distributor who's been an amazing partner and really been instrumental in kind of helping us get the brand back to where it is today. And yeah, so hopefully that's an abbreviated version. There's a lot of interesting ups and downs, during that time frame, but that's sort of my journey so far.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. Divorce is never a good thing for anybody financially. It's terrible.
Yeah, yeah.
And so, um, so can you explain Iron and Resin a little bit, because it's not like a normal fashion brand. So
Yeah,
can you go into your whole thesis behind that, and what you do and how you do it?
sure. So, I'll kind of give some context. I mean, I grew up around action sports and around sports brands. And, at some point you mature beyond wearing skate tees and surf shop tees and things like that. And I think the biggest thing for me was just the disposable nature of everything. And, I'd always had an affinity for vintage apparel. I always shopped in kind of vintage and thrift stores, and would steal my grandfather's old Pendleton shirts, and just had an affinity for things that had a history and lasted, a lifetime or more. And Iron Resin was really sort of born from that desire to create things that had lasting value and were purpose built, but were built to be around for a long time. And we want to create something that has a heritage to it, that has a legacy that is timeless in terms of style, that'll be around for a long time. And if you're going to build something that is going to be durable enough to last, it's got to, can't be a fashion driven piece. It's got to be something that's timeless in terms of style, that's got to be relevant in your closet. So whatever that was going to be, it had to have sort of that was the values that I really wanted to incorporate. The lifestyle aspect is just from where it started, it was just really a reflection of all the things that I love, and was into, you know, vintage cars and bikes and surfing and the outdoors. And it's all those things into a big melting pot. And, um, from I sort of look at, for example, surfing and motorcycles, and that's really where the name comes from. Motorcycles, iron, surfing, resin. Um, but I look at, in terms of the emotional connection to those activities, and when you're engaged in those activities, and the where your mindset's at and being in the moment, whether it's surfing down a long point break wave or riding a motorcycle, solo up a 2 lane where it's that sensation you get and kind of expressing emotional way to our consumers, what we try to get across from a lot of things we do, whether it's sort of long form editorial or imagery or videos. That's sort of the emotional connection we try to get across, and I've always loved, again, kind of going back to vintage, sort of that era of the 50s, 60s, 70s, whether it's surf culture or motorcycle culture. I draw a lot of inspiration from those periods, and just love the idea of guys that built the surfboards. They rode cycles. They rode out in the desert. They'd surf all week and go out to the desert. And we're talking kind of, this is very California lifestyle. So, but that concept of building the small batch production and building what you use and the tools and hand craftsmanship and all those things are also kind of folded into our ethos to a certain extent. So there's a lot to unpack in there, but it's all in there somewhere.
But the quality of the product you're talking about is it's not disposable product. I mean, it's not something that you're going to buy and then maybe 2 years from now it's going to be, in the Goodwill bin.
We hope not. I mean, we offer a lifetime warranty on everything we make. So we overbuild it so that it hopefully doesn't come back to us for repair. But customers know that if a seam rips or a button pops off or snap breaks, or we'll repair it. We build it so that it is repairable, and we want people to to use the gear we make and use it hard, because we do. And but I hate that concept of just the disposable nature of things. I just can't stand. I had to take a small load of construction debris to the dump, and I just was just it's just depressing to see what people throw away, and it's I really would love to see our, our stuff in the hands of people that appreciate, that the value comes from the quality and the longevity of it. But we want to be around for a long time, and ideally be something that they feel proud to pass on to somebody else. If for some reason something they get, whatever, it's not going to get thrown away. It's going to get resold or gifted, or so live on somehow.
Yeah, I I agree with you. Well, first of all, your ethos is, it's not only the California ethos, but it's sort of aspirational, right? Every guy wants, whether they can ride or not, wants the freedom of a motorcycle. That's what's attractive. Everybody loves motorcycles. When you listen to Bob Dylan's press conference in like 1964 in San Francisco, they said, what's the imagery of his shirt, which said, which was a Triumph shirt. One
Right.
reporter was asking him, and he said, well, everybody loves motorcycles, and he's right, right? Everybody loves motorcycles. Not everybody wants to ride them. Not everybody can afford to ride them, but everybody loves that lifestyle. And the concept of surfing and going to the desert, it's all about freedom. Right? Guy on a surfboard out there, that's freedom. Um, and you're 100% in control of how you handle that. But getting back to the whole, I agree with you on, I don't like the disposability of how we manufacture products today. It drives me insane, and my wife as well, and my kids all shop in thrift stores, and I like to go in thrift stores. It's amazing what you can find in there. That's really cool. I personally like vintage sport coats, guys that
Mhm.
have them from like the 50s, the 60s, that were made by some really great tailors in New York that you can find out there, and then you just get them taken in or whatever. But that's sort of my thing. Is I like the classic style of how guys sort of dressed, you know, back then. And then every once in a while you find a great leather jacket, or something that you
Yep.
can. You can work with. So I like it. I mean, I spent some time on your site, and I think that some of the products are really really cool and resonate with people. So
We
hopefully
try.
some, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think my true north for in terms of product design and development is I you know I selfishly tend to make things for myself that I like and would wear. And, I think it's every time I've tried to, I've listened to whether it's sales reps or another voice chirping in my ear, you need to do this, you need to do that. It hasn't worked out so well for me. So I keep coming back to just build stuff that you like. That's, hopefully everyone else will like it too, but just stick with that. That's, that seems to work out. So, um, yeah, I think it with brands today, there's just so much noise out there, and with the amount of reach that anybody can have now. I mean, it's very democratizing, whether it's social media or YouTube, or you really don't have to have a lot of resources to start building any sort of brand, whether it's a personal brand or clothing brand or whatever it be. But it's there's also, and we're fed a lot of just stuff that we're constantly inundated with. So it gets tougher and tougher to kind of break through all that noise to have something that's meaningful to somebody.
Yeah, I think to a certain extent there's a lot of noise out there, but there's a lot of garbage out there, and people are pretty quick to push the garbage aside. What you need to do with brands today, and we deal with this constantly, is you need to talk on an emotional level with somebody. Your brand needs to speak to somebody on an emotional level, or else you're not going to get very far. And
Yeah,
even as simple as when you look at a brand like Graza with olive oil and what they did, it was just simple, but it was an emotional level because they spoke to a specific demographic and psychographic, and did a tremendous job. Same thing with Truff hot sauce. Things, when a brand hits it and really understands who they're talking to, then they can hit it on an emotional level. And then once you've hit it on an emotional level, then and as long as you know who you're speaking to, you'll be able to build that brand. But there's so many brands out there. Well, there's so many sellers out there. I don't even want to say brands. There's so many sellers out there, just people that think they can just slap a label on something and then just selling it. And I think Amazon is partially to blame for that. The rise of marketplaces is partially to blame for that, because people think, okay, well, I can get a toothpaste, and same
yeah,
toothpaste Crest has. I'll put my label on it and I'll sell it. There's nothing special about it, and you're not talking to anybody about it. And eventually, those sellers sort of die off. But yeah, they keep
yeah,
coming.
yeah. There's that's never more evident than at like a trade show is a great place to see that in action, because you'll see. I used to get depressed going to trade shows because I'm like, all this product is so great, and like, but I've never heard of any of these brands before. But the difference between, like, we used to do outdoor retailer for many years with several of our brands, and that was a great place to see the difference between a brand like Yeti, for example, that came out with a really high quality roto molded cooler, and they weren't first to market with it, but they were the first to market with kind of an emotional hook through their storytelling and content. And then within, I don't know, 3 or 4 years, there were 100 copycats, probably made in the same factory, many of them, and equally as high quality a product, but maybe just a Chinese brand that no one's heard of, or another guy who kind of took the concept and put a little spin on it, but no content, no storytelling, no identity, and all those companies were gone within 5 years.
Sure.
And meanwhile, Yeti is the sort of still top of the heap, and their content is more relevant than ever. And they Red Bull's another example of that. They're a media company and really focus on, they'll always have that sort of that apex position in the hierarchy, because they're the best at storytelling and content, and so it's hard as a small brand, though, I mean, again, with technology where it's at today, I think the tools are available relatively inexpensively for people uh, to do some amazing storytelling with a little bit of imagination and grit, and but reaching the audience is tougher. When we started, again, Instagram had just started, and we grew an audience very quickly, but we were an early adopter, and it's a different story today. So it's even paid advertising, digital advertising is a lot tougher today. So
Oh yeah, paid advertising has changed dramatically, and you know we place a lot of digital advertising for people, but if you have, but again, it goes back to you have to be able to tell the story, even if you're using a paid channel. You have to be able to tell the story, because if you can't tell a story, then what are you saying? My popcorn is just as good as your popcorn, or my
yeah,
shirt is just as good as your shirt. It doesn't make a difference. Customers don't want to hear about it. You have to hit. Look at what Dr. Squatch did with soaps and men's products. And I
yep,
think that there's other channels that people sort of disregard when it comes to digital advertising. The costs of doing connected television, for example, have come down so dramatically that we used to have to do $20,000 minimum per month per brand through the demand side platforms in order to even get on. And now we can get on for $5,000 a month, and that depending on the type of business you are, it can go a long way. And the beauty of it is that who you're talking to. But again, you have to know who you want to focus on. You have to know, and you have to have a great piece of creative that tells the story, or else
yeah,
you're just wasting your money. And then once people view it, then you can retarget them all day long online. It makes your entire digital advertising work so much better. So I think I understand what you're saying. There's a lot of noise out there, but from where I sit, um, we is the brands that have a great story, the brands that resonate, make very strong headway very quickly. So I think, digital advertising to us is not a primary channel. It never will be anymore, because it's too messy. But when you
yeah,
think about when you look at user generated content, you look at micro influencers, you look at what you can do with that sort of stuff. And if just like you said, if you have just a little bit of creativity and you can do some things, it can blow up and move pretty quickly, because the people are looking for something. People are looking for something that's creative. They don't want to see the same old, same old. Um,
yeah, and like everything, I mean, there's been an evolution. I mean, what I've noticed over the last several years really is, what what drove engagement early on was just, could have been as simple as pretty pictures, on Instagram, for example, and that was enough. And now it's really more about, especially with the advent of AI, I think the pendulum swings the other way, where people crave a human connection, especially with smaller mid-sized brands like our own, people want to know there's, they want to connect. They want to hear the good and the bad. They want to see the struggle. They want to know that there's real people just like them, going to work and hustling no, I think people aren't as interested in all the sizzle and flash and everything as they once were. Now they want to see a little more behind the scenes. They want to hear the founder voice. They want to hear, the human side of things. And again, the good and the bad. They want to hear, like, they love to hear the struggle. They want to
Yeah.
hear, and like, I think our engaged uh, posts have just been, probably me talking into my phone about a shitty period we were going through, or a particular struggle we were having, and telling people to be patient with us, and begging them to, for their forgiveness because their order's late. But that's where we see a lot of active engagement, and it seems to resonate the most with people these days.
Yeah, I agree. People want authenticity. They don't want to think that you're just a bot or just a faceless brand or, some, uh, some guy that's not even in the country. So, they do want that. They crave that authenticity. And I think, I see constantly, and it drives me insane. I see constantly these guys pitching their AI platform that will make your commercials. And the best one that I love is it'll create user generated content. Well, user generated content is supposed to be authentic. It's supposed to be somebody using your product and giving you their opinion. So basically, if you're creating the user generated content with some AI tool and you're telling it what the message is that you want it to say, it's not authentic anymore. It just
That's
defeats the
right.
purpose. And people fall for it because so many young brands just starting out look for the next bright, shiny thing instead of sticking to what they're doing. The ones that
Yeah.
stick to their path, leave the outside noise alone, focus on what they're doing, tell their story and stick to it and communicate with their audience. They're the ones that win. And those are the ones that break through. The fake stuff, you know, it just it never lasts. It never works. And there's still, I mean, there's a tremendous amount of sellers out there still that just sell product, and
Yeah.
it just
Yeah.
doesn't last very long because all you're selling is a product for a price. And when you're selling a product for a price and not selling, the emotion around it or why they want to buy that product, then all you're doing is just somebody else is going to come along with a cheaper price and the same product, and you're toast.
Yeah. It's just a commodity at that point, and there's no real longevity hope there for something like that. I mean, really, at least it kind of what we do, that brand brand value is so important. And for us, it comes from not only content that we generate and storytelling, but community events, and we have a very tight knit community that I'm very proud of, that we haven't built, but we're part of a larger network of individuals and other brands that we overlap with in terms of audience, and it's that's a critical part of any brand lifespan as well. So we put quite a bit of energy into that as well, and those are some of the fun things we do. Uh, but we're gonna do more of them in the coming years, and hopefully continue to do that for the foreseeable future, because that's a big part of I think why we have a very engaged audience as well. Whether you can come to one of our events or not, I think people aspire to be there in spirit, and we'll generally create a lot of content out of those events that becomes evergreen, sort of lives on, and yeah, it all goes into it. So and as things evolve and change, we're always looking for new ways to engage our audience and in a meaningful way that makes them want to come back and open our emails and
Yeah.
visit the site and all those things. So
Yeah. Where are you manufacturing? Do you manufacture in the States or?
we manufacture some in California. So we have kind of we started exclusively making everything in the US. And when probably for the first 5 years of Iron Resin, we made everything and we made a lot of it in house, whole factory. And so we made a lot of our own product. After closing down Streamline, we started outsourcing. So we had vendors in mostly the LA area. So there's still some manufacturing here, mostly knits. So we'll do like really high quality knit t-shirts and other forms of knit kind of fabrics. So that's one thing that at least in California in the US, they're still pretty good at. So much of the other manufacturing is moved offshore.
Yeah.
There's almost no woven fabric made in the US anymore. So we source fabric from all over the world, and we really try and source the best source for that fabric, whether it's Pima cotton from Peru or wax canvas from Scotland or the UK or leather from Italy and we'll ship that fabric to our factories in Southeast Asia. We have a production office in Pakistan now, so we're doing some production there, and we've got about 15 people over there that oversee that and oversee the logistics of exporting product out of there back to the U.S. and to our European part. So that's been something that my European distributor, who now my partner, brought on board 30 years of kind of supply chain across Southeast Asia, so India and Pakistan, primarily a little bit of Bangladesh, and having our own over there is a massive advantage because we have sort of first person knowledge of everything going on in the factory, boots on the ground for quality control, which is, for our business and brand in particular, extremely important.
Yeah.
And handling all the inspection of the final goods and packaging and shipping to make sure everything is the way we want it to be. And as well as doing some of our technical development. So we'll send them basic designs and they'll create all the tech packs and things like that. So that's been a real positive thing for our business since bringing them on board. So we're products from all over the world. It's just depends on what it is and what we're making, but we're primarily U.S., Southeast Asia, and then material we bring in from everywhere.
Are you designing are you designing in California? Is that where,
Yeah,
like, do you have designers
yeah,
there?
we design everything in house. So we have design here. We do some design out of our European office. So we have a whole team there as well, and we collaborate on a lot of pieces. So, but primarily everything's either designed here or in conjunction with our office in Europe.
Yeah, man, it's a great story. I love it. I love the brand. I love the brand name. I love what I've seen so far. So it's really interesting to me, and I appreciate you taking the time. Any last minute, or we're sort of running out of time. So any last messages you want to get across to anybody on what you do, how you did it, your life, you know?
I think if I could probably cap it all off with I think tenacity is kind of everything because it's a marathon, not a sprint.
That's for sure.
If somebody's starting a business, there's gonna be really really tough times, no matter what you do. and it's just sort of having the grit to kind of push through it and come out the other side. But there's if you do anything long enough, you'll find success. So it's just I'm happy to still be doing what I love to do, and I work with my friends every day, and get to still kind of pursue my passions, and it's a good life.
Yeah. It sounds like it is. Yeah. And that
Yeah.
part of the country, I mean, my daughter's at UCLA and, but I've been to Santa Barbara, that whole area, just north of LA. And I like it. It's not, I'm too much of an East Coast guy. I'm too much of a New Yorker to, live out there, but I like going and visiting, but I could see the attraction to Santa Barbara. I mean, it's a beautiful part of the coast.
It is, yeah. And if you're into the and you love being outside and
Oh yeah.
having it literally at your doorstep, it's tough to beat. And
Yeah.
the weather is, I mean, well, this week's going to be hot, but not too bad on the coast at least. But
That's all right. It was 78 degrees here last Wednesday. Thursday, the temperature dropped and we had snow. And then
yeah,
yesterday or this morning, it was 62 degrees. And then we had this storm blow through and we're back down to the 30s. So, you know,
wow.
it's not,
Well, you're almost to spring, so
yeah, hopefully.
hang in there.
Yeah.
We'll send you postcards from balmy California.
Yeah. No, I get the update every day from my daughter. She tells me what the
Oh, I'm
weather's
sure.
like.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but I thought it was great, man. I really appreciate you sharing on that conversation. I thought there was a lot to take away. One of the biggest lessons I heard is, and I agree with, is that real brands are built more from conviction, not convenience. You didn't create Iron and Resin by chasing any trends. You built it from, like you just said, your passions, your focus, your lived experiences, all the things you like to do and a belief in making things that actually matter and last. So I applaud it, and I think it's great. And if anybody, the all the links to the website, the links to Tom's LinkedIn, all the links to their social will all be in the description. So if you want to just visit, which I urge you to do, it's really cool. I think the site is really good. I think the social media is done really well. So I'm a fan. And
Well, thank you.
yeah, but if you enjoyed this episode, make sure to follow, share, subscribe. Look for us every week on E360 TV. And if you're building a brand and trying to scale with more clarity, better strategy, and fewer expensive mistakes, keep tuning in to shows to segments like this, where I thought it was a masterclass on how to build a great, lasting brand. So thanks again for taking the time, and yeah, I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, my pleasure.